So great to see you this afternoon, Myra. It'd be really, really interesting for you to tell me what inspired you to create your masterclass and how did you choose the topic?
Oh, hi, Jill. Oh, it's great to see you. So, the masterclass creating, better insights, drive better outcomes. It was, it really came about as a result of a conversation with Mel. So, Mel and I met, and we just started spitballing, and just exchanging experiences from the last sort of 17, 18 years of working. And we kind of realized that we had lots of scars and battle wounds and things that we'd learned. And after that conversation, I went away and I started thinking about really whether there were any kind of common patterns in those experiences. And as a result of that, I guess two things came out of it. I created the scaling change framework, which I'm using as a coaching framework with clients, but also that the masterclass was born.
Excellent. Oh, that's great. So, how did you structure that masterclass to fit into a 5 hour format with all of the work people need to do as they go through it, whilst ensuring, you got both depth of knowledge and also making sure people stay engaged?
Yeah, it was harder than I thought it was going to be. Having said that, the thing that gave it real structure was having the six change levers in the scaling change framework. So the fact I had those six, the levers of the intention, the oversight, capability, capacity, and so on, that helped give it some structure. But I was also really keen that the masterclass was interactive. So I spent quite a lot of time thinking about what it was I wanted people to get out of the session and that they got something right from the beginning. So I talked about the gift of hindsight, the fact that this was developed from my learning, and really kind of set that sort of coaching expectation as well as it being a knowledge share.
Yeah, oh, that's excellent. So, how did you, during when you were creating it, think about the balance between theory and practical application?
Yeah, and actually it came very easy because it's all about the practical for me. Because it was born out of my experience, having, run change programs, just having, what looks good, where some of the common errors were. And as I said earlier, just that repeated sort of, I guess, mistakes that were made that enabled me to create it. So the real only theory is this the sort of framework itself, but everything else is born out of experience. I try and tell stories in the masterclass as well. So there's just something that makes it come to life before people then go away and have their own sort of learning from it.
Yeah, yeah. And thinking a little bit about you and your expertise, what kind of unique perspective um, or expertise do you bring to this topic that, helps set this masterclass apart?
Yeah. I think one of the things that really helped for me was being a qualified change coach and bringing in that sort of experience of asking questions, giving people space alongside the experience of managing change. One of the things that I've had as a lovely sort of feedback is when I ask questions, they're based on having had experience of things, so people's minds open up a little bit more. So I think that it was just that combination of having that. Obviously, I have the HR background as well, that helped. But I think it was that coaching and change experience together that just gave it and made the masterclass come to life in an extra way.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So, as you were kind of preparing and researching for this masterclass, what kind of key insights did you get or lessons did you learn yourself that you brought to this masterclass?
Well, there was so much, Jill. I think what I saw as I started to reflect was the patterns. And that's to say, that's how the scaling change framework really emerged. But I think the other thing that came out from it was the scaling change. I'm like you, like me, we've gone in and we've run big change programs. But what I quite often saw happen was it was something outside the program that quite often sort of sideswiped it. It'd be another change going on, or somebody else kind of like trying to get that space. So it's partly why I called it scaling change, because you can do your one program of work, but it's then how do you put it into a wider context where really some of that learning came. So I think it gave me that insight that when we're teaching others, it's not just about the change in front of you, it's the ecology of how it fits with everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about that, you talked about what people are going to get from it, but what kind of impact do you hope your masterclass makes on the participant?
I think the biggest impact is actually to stop and pause and look in with fresh eyes so they get it sharpened. One of the lovely bits of feedback we got was where someone had looked at it
Hmm.
and they just adjusted their approach as a result. So I'm hoping there's a real genuine learning of some new points as a result of the experience, but they actually do spend the time to ask those coaching questions. And I'd love it if they came back and said, "Hey, we did this separate thing, which was so much better as a result of attending the
Yeah,
masterclass."
yeah. And have you had any feedback and from people that's really memorable or surprising about the masterclass?
Well, I got really lucky, which was before we actually published it, we had two or three experienced change people come and have a look at it. And one of the really heartening things was one of them said, "Wow, I'm just about to go into another change program. This almost gives me my first 100 days in the role. You've given me the insights to go and talk to stakeholders." So that was an immediate great affirmation. And also, we've said the masterclass can be used at the beginning of a program before you kick off. So it was great affirmation for that as well.
Excellent. And if somebody's going to take this masterclass, what's the one thing that you really hope they take away from the masterclass?
It probably builds on the point before. It's the one thing is do take the time. We always rush around, busy, busy, and particularly in a change program where there's lots of things going on. So I think recognizing that change is always fitting into something else. I call it change ecology in the masterclass. So look at how it fits. And one of the change levers is called change attention. So build change attention in for yourself as an individual so that you can really get those insights.
Yeah, that sounds really good. So as we look ahead, what do you think are the trends and the emerging topics that you're seeing in your field that you're getting most excited about at the moment?
Most people are going to say AI at that point because obviously that's a huge one at the moment. But actually, I'm not going to go there. I think for me, one of the most significant pieces is around leadership development. We see a lot of accidental managers, and
Mm.
suddenly they're managing change initiatives. So I think one of the sort of trends I'm definitely seeing in the coaching world is how do you help and support somebody who's accidentally suddenly gone into a program, or they're a sponsor, or they're a line manager, and how do we help them through? Because I think we've had a situation where a lot of leadership development has kind of been lacking for a bit, and we're now feeling that, experiencing it. So I think that's the trend that I'm seeing in the coaching space. It's how do we equip people to help in that situation?
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think you've got this the fact that it hasn't been a traditional thing for managers to learn, and we're seeing a lot more change at the moment. So I suspect this coaching piece is getting really important.
Yes, definitely.
Um, so, what are your kind of plans for any future masterclasses or any other educational content that you think you might be creating?
Well, let's see where it goes next. I think for me, immediately, is I've loved creating this masterclass. And what I'd really like to do is get this into team sessions where you've actually got teams getting together, asking those questions and getting to better change programs as a result. So I think that's in the immediate future to that. But there's so many ways that this learning could go from here. And I think some of it that Mel's looking to do around supporting the sponsor, supporting the non-change manager, I think they're really ones that we need in the place at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think their roles are really changing. And I
Yes.
think the final kind of question I'd like to ask you is a little bit about where do you think online learning is evolving and how do these masterclasses fit in with that kind of future?
I think they're a really important part. And I think we're seeing masterclasses in other other parts as well, and outside of work as well. For me, when I was doing the change lead role, one of the things I found, you probably did as well, trying to ask time for the business to have training. It was becoming a real battle. You couldn't get time, and particularly when people had busy day jobs, BAU. And the great thing about masterclasses and indeed any online learning is you can do it when you want to do it. So you can pick it up, you can put it down, and people can choose to do it, or you can actually say, no, this is something that we want everyone to do. So I love the flexibility of it. I think it's the only way forward. But of course, what I would say as a coach is I think you have to wrap it around with other support, like that's line manager, or a coach, or coach in informal or formal setting. So you partner the online with somebody just kind of saying, well, what did you learn from that?
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you for that. That's been really helpful today.